Episode 73 of the Auld Triangle is here. Ian O'Neill, Andy Stevenson and Caoilte Barra. And we have a metric ton of Irish mixed martial arts news to break down. Ian Garry's fight, Levels Fight League, PFL Lyon, Iúr Fighting Championships, Will Fleury interview ahead of his big fight with Karlos Vémola. Boys, what's the crack? How are you keeping? Andy was trying to scupper a couple of intros here. He's up for divilment. So all I'll say, lads,
I don't know what you're talking about.
Just
no comments.
Listen.
No comments. How are you, Caoilte?
Good. No late night zoomies for me now, but can't say the same for you, Andy.
I had a rock shandy there earlier on, and I'm off the walls here.
Like you're like a gremlin. You can't give you a sugar past 9 o'clock, or you get all giddy and shit. And it's like
I thought you were going to keep it in. As Ian gave me a telling off. I've been told to rein it in here.
Yeah. All right, let's get on to it anyway. Let's talk about Ian Garry. And let's talk about his impressive performance, but obviously lost to Shavkat Rakhmonov at UFC 303 a couple of weekends ago now. Caoilte, very impressive performance in Ian Garry in defeat. Look, it ran Shavkat as close as anybody. Dropped the decision 48-47 on all three judges' scorecards. A fair result. It boiled down to just one round for me. Very, very close in getting the job done. What did you think of his performance? The game plan he brought to the table against Shavkat, and what happened in the fight in particular, I guess?
Yeah, look, considering took the fight in short notice against the boogeyman of the division. Takedown defense was just extraordinary throughout the fight, to be very honest with you. He got taken down there in the later rounds, but for the beginning of that fight, he was phenomenal at stopping those takedowns and really kind of negating that kind of offense from Shavkat. Loved the way he targeted the front leg. Those like John Jones-esque type of oblique kicks, kind of stomping down the knee, were just they were so effective. And kind of butchering up that front leg was brilliant. Worked off the jab every now and again when he could, and he got caught a bit. But in terms of focusing particularly on Ian Garry's game plan, how he looked, I thought he was brilliant overall. He really ran Shavkat close. You know, he took 2 rounds off and brought him all the way to the distance. Hurt him once or twice, or caught him, especially with those leg strikes as well. You know, and final round, thought he was going to finish it. Takes the back, gets the body triangle locked in. On the neck, can't seem to get it fully locked in, and Shavkat fights the hands, and that was that could have been the moment really for him. But brilliant, he still took that round. But overall, a really solid performance. But Shavkat was just too much, I think, in that first, second, and fourth round to kind of take that decision for me.
Yeah, I mean, to say it was too much, I don't know if I agree with that. I would say that Ian kind of played into his game a little bit too much. In terms of the clinch, I think it was the clinch for me. I think he kind of caught in the clinch a little bit too long at times, where there was no opportunity for the judges to kind of score either way, and then you're basically scoring off a couple of striking exchanges maybe at the start or at the end of the round. But I think, that back take in round 5, Andy, was unbelievable. And there looked like for a couple of seconds there that Ian was going to cinch on that choke and it was going to be all done. And my goodness, what a result that would have been if that had happened. I mean, it's the second time, and he came out after the fight and he was obviously disappointed in himself, but it's 2 fights in a row now where the rear naked choke and the lack of finishing ability for a rear naked choke has cost Ian Garry in getting the win.
Yeah, he was incredibly close with that, and from listening to him after the fact, he was obviously kicking himself, and he's saying that he's going to go off and speak with Charles Oliveira and Damian Maia and figure why, what does he need to do, what are the adjustments to be able to go in and finish that, because you can tell that he was incredibly frustrated after the fact. And when you're a competitor like Garry, like that's gonna sting for a little bit, not finishing that choke. But I mean, what a performance! It's a mad one to you're in the biggest spot of your career and you're after taking your first loss of your career, as a professional, yet it doesn't really feel like a loss. That whole kind of saying of like, he didn't win the fight, but he won the night. I think that's completely fair and applicable here. I think for how long have we talked about Ian Garry, and like there's been so much just like focus and focus on the bullshit, on the the narratives outside of the cage, on the fan reaction or disdain for Ian Garry at times, over the course of his
by the larger
career.
audience. I think that by the larger audience, not by us. I think we didn't buy into any of that bullshit.
Oh yeah,
a lot of I think what you're right is saying though. I think before this fight, it was kind of we talked about it in the last podcast, didn't we, Andy? Like the turn was starting to come, and I think even though he went out and lost, I was always curious to hear what the reaction would be after that first loss. But when you go out and lose like you do against someone like Shavkat, he's been getting a hell of a lot more love than he's been getting off maybe the majority of his previous wins in the UFC, which is kind of strange and kind of how mixed martial arts works. It's a crazy, crazy world, and the way that opinions shift is insane. Like,
I think it was a huge win from all week. He went in here against the guy who's 18-0, 18 finishes. I feel like Ian's growing into his own person as well. Like, a lot of his focus was just tied to McGregor, and like always kind of calling back to it and always making a connection, where he seems to be coming into his, like, he's his own fighter. Like, he's not the same fighter. So like, just be yourself. We're seeing a lot more of his jiu-jitsu, his grappling. Like, that's where he's had the big moments over his last couple of fights. And I think, when we look at the fight itself, obviously it's the first 2 rounds that will have cost him that fight. And we're talking, a couple of strikes. And I think that he was a bit tentative in those early rounds, and understandably so, because I think his willingness to take risk against Shavkat wasn't there as much in the first 2 rounds, understandably, because he's coming in against a guy who's got 18 finishes and he knows his game. He knows how dangerous he is. But I really feel like as the fight wore on, he grew in confidence. He obviously was having great success in his grappling defense, but then even on the feet as well, he was taking more risk. He was landing a lot more shots. And of course, we saw, what he did with his submission attempts as well. So, I mean, for Garry, I know he's coming off a loss here, but I think that this week, that fight week, that performance, he's won every other fight in his pro career, but he's done more for himself with this loss than he has the rest of his career, almost, as far as like his, getting to that point now where he's still only a fight or 2 away from a UFC title shot. I think his estimation in the fans' eyes has risen massively. I think he's becoming a much more well-liked and more respected, most importantly, as a fighter. And there's still a million different avenues you can go down for him for his next fight. Like, there's loads of different options you can do. And I still think, it doesn't even really matter, like, whether it's 1 fight or 2 fights. He's definitely on a course towards that title contention. I don't think that's really arguable.
Oh, no, without a doubt. Like, I mean, he could arguably just be another win away, to be honest, from securing that. Like, and I think the way he handled the loss was very good. And, it maybe a little bit above board, but that's what Ian Garry is. I think we just have to get used to that. He's above board in what he thinks. Like, you'd look at the press conference, boys, and seriously, if you didn't know the result, you'd think he was after winning. It was an insane way in some ways to kind of deal with the loss. But there's probably quite moments of regret to himself, maybe back in his house or rewatching the fight, and all comes to all, I think he proved to himself, I think he proved to the larger audience of mixed martial arts that, yeah, he's legit. I mean, it's no real surprise to us, I don't think. I think we've felt that we had the confidence in him. No, I picked him to win a decision. I'm not surprised in how the fight played out. I think it played out exactly how I expected it to play out. Except Shavkat just got the nod in the end. And I mean, you're talking about, Caoilte, a couple of exchanges there for me, and Andy talked about the tentativeness at the start of the fight, whereas that, if he had to let go maybe a little bit more, he might have won a couple of those exchanges, but at the same time, he might have lost those a couple of exchanges too. And I think Sean explained it well on the big podcast, Caoilte. I don't know how you feel about it, is that he was forced to kind of fight in the way that he fought to take the game away from Shavkat, and he almost fed into that, I believe, too much. But I mean, it's easy for us to say you're fighting a dude that has 18 wins and 18 finishes, and bringing him all the way and almost finishing him towards the end of the fight. I can understand why he sees it as a win.
Yeah, 100%. And even like you remember the tentativeness there in the first 2 rounds, and I think I alluded to it's too much. What I mean is, he was too much in terms of to score the round, to sway the round is in his favor. As for the tentativeness from the inside, I think like you're preparing for a 5-round fight. There's a high risk, high reward of actually letting go very early without getting those reads on your opponent. And I think that's what he was getting in those early rounds, and maybe played into it a bit too much and let them slip away from him slightly. And those are probably things to look at moving forward. But yeah, he's the one in there with, as I said, the boogeyman of the division. One of the scariest, toughest guys at welterweight. So it's not really surprising either. And then as for how he's come out of it, I think there's a massive positive light you can take from it, and comes out a winner in a very different way without having the decision go his way.
What would you like to see next for him, Caoilte?
So he was on the Ariel Lawani show afterwards, and I think Irish MMA, especially in terms of the kind of upper level of the UFC, is in that moment where they kind of need. There's an opportunity there to kind of get the adoration of the Irish fans right now, and I think he went on the show and he said that he has no interest in fighting in London, and he wants to fight in Dublin, and I think that was perfect. I think the way he handled that and the way he brought that up, that was really good. And I think it's that'll win over a lot of fans in Ireland for him. And I'd love to see him bring it back personally. I think there's a possibility. I'd love the Joaquin Buckley fight, especially after that performance at the weekend. So yeah, Joaquin Buckley and Garry in Dublin. I'd love it.
Yeah, it'd be great. It was a smart move for him to say that, Andy, but I think we shared a little private exchange there when you posted the video about it. And, I think we're both similar. Is that, the hope is there, but it's only a sign of hope. I don't think we're going to see UFC back in Dublin in 2025 for a couple of reasons, to be honest. But, it was the right thing to say, Andy, for him. But do you see the next fight being in Dublin?
No, definitely not.
Yeah.
No, it's just not happening. Like, if obviously,
my dreams, Andy.
I hope it does, and maybe it does. But
stranger things have happened. But like the way the UFC, when I was talking to Dave Shaw there in Edmonton, he all but poured cold water for a UFC event, and basically saying that the O2 or the 3 Arena is too small, and with the UFC events that are being put on now, they're looking for 20,000 seat arenas, and it's double the size. They're looking for ticket sales. They're looking for site fees as well. So we're going to be expecting what I think, as the Irish government, you were saying, Andy, would have to, stump up 5-10 million or something for site fees. That would result in wild ticket prices to make back those site fees as well. It's just there's loads of different things that are kind of standing in the way of it.
I'm sure they're itching to pump money into MMA at the moment as well.
I know, for sure, big time. I know it's like. And with talking to a couple of people, and when you have the event in London, and London is only maybe an hour flight away, or you can put an event on in Manchester, the UFC are looking at those kind of arenas. Unfortunately, don't get me wrong, I'm the same as you, Caoilte, and Andy. I assume you are as well. I'd love to see one back. Just bring one back. Just fucking bring one back. But the business model and the growth of the UFC in recent years is pointing towards them not bringing an event back, which is a travesty, but the reality of the situation that we're dealing with now. What do you think is next, Andy? Look, he said he doesn't want to fight Leon Edwards in London. He also said he didn't want to fight MVP. He also said he didn't want to fight down in the rankings again. He does say things, and other things do happen, which is not his fault. I think he could possibly work himself into being a shot caller in the UFC, but he's not nowhere near a shot caller in the UFC right now. So I think go wherever the UFC want him to go.
I suppose, just on one of those points there, it'll be interesting to see what the rankings look like tomorrow when they come out, to see where Joaquin Buckley ends up after that win. Over Covington. I understand Ian's perspective. I understand why he's saying that about. And look, it's a great. He probably believes that. I'm sure he wants to get the show back to Dublin. I just don't think it's realistic right now. And I think that like I think going in fighting in London, like there'd be so many Irish that would go to that event still. And I know it's because he wants it in Ireland, but like the reality is it's just probably not going to happen. You could go in there, fight a guy like Leon Edwards, have an Irish versus English matchup in London. Like you're going to get a big amount of support from the Irish there. Obviously you'll be, you won't be the hometown fight or anything like that. Now that's in March, so maybe that doesn't align with his timeline. And he's been very clear that he does not want that fight. Or sorry, that he does not want that matchup in London. So then it's a case of, are the UFC willing to match him with Leon Edwards elsewhere? If he's talking the summertime international fight week or something like that, could you have it on a Vegas card or somewhere in the US? I would assume they'd probably want Leon in England if he's fighting, but maybe not. You never know. They've got a lot of UK fighters that they can stick on that show too. So look, I don't know. I think realistically, if you're looking at the rankings right now, we've got like Kamaru Usman and Jack Della Maddalena are matched up for February. So looking down them, you've got Bilal's obviously going to fight Shavkat next. You have Leon Edwards sitting there. Maddalena's fighting Usman, as I just said, and then you've got Buckley. So I think like there's a storyline for both the Edwards and the Buckley fight, considering the interaction that Ian and Buckley have had. Buckley's been chasing that fight for a while, and of course you have all that kind of beef or whatever it was from when Garry and Edwards were training. So I think those are the two.
Yeah, I like both of those fights. I think with both of those fights have come two different things. I think if he goes in there and fights Joaquin Buckley next and beats Joaquin Buckley, I feel that UFC would feel he needs one more to get that title shot. But you trust yourself in there against Leon Edwards in March. You go out there and you beat him. I mean, you almost come undeniable again immediately for a next title shot, and everybody is chomping at the bit to see a Shavkat rematch. They'd like the opportunity maybe for him, and Bilal would like probably some fresh competition if Bilal does kind of go out there and beat Shavkat too. So it's very interesting. Yeah.
But in fairness to Buckley though, like he's what, 6 fights win streak at the moment, and he's finished Wonderboy, he's finished Vicente Luque, he's finished Colby Covington now, and obviously you have that marketing of he's got like the greatest KO in UFC history, that kind of catch spinning back kick over him.
He's not getting a title shot next. He hasn't beaten anybody in the top 5, and UFC just historically, I just know there would not.
No, he's not getting a title fight, but I think that if Ian went out and then put a stop to this run that he's on, I think that's
Oh yeah, for sure. Oh yeah. Sorry, I misinterpreted that for sure. Yeah, definitely it would be. It does make sense now that he has won and Ian has lost, but I don't know whether I don't know whether Joaquin will want that. Do you want to be fighting a guy who's just lost? Fans
might react a lot better though, because like you know what a lot of fans are going to react when they see Ian Garry versus Leon Edwards match up. Like it's an amazing technical fight, but a lot of fans will be like, this is going to be a stinker. Like a lot of the casual fans who just want to see a car crash are going to be like, oh, don't know about this one.
Yeah. Well, I don't think Ian is too bothered in catering to the casual audience. I think the casual audience probably wouldn't have enjoyed Ian versus Shavkat either, if we're being honest, because, but I think it was a fascinating fight. They reacted quite well to that too. But yeah, I mean, it's good to have options. It's great to have this amount of options, even after coming off of a loss, and be interesting to see what happens next. I think my guess would be Joaquin Buckley next for Ian Garry.
No shouts for Ireland's Sean Brady if you wanted to go for an all-Irish affair there, so surprised at that one.
Yeah, he'd be another one. He's trying to fight somebody. Who is he
up
trying to fight? Yeah. Who did I see he's putting his hat in the ring for?
Maddalena, maybe, no?
Yeah, I thought Maddalena's was being thrown around for him in Australia as well, but it'd be interesting anyway. Look, we spent some time on this fight anyway. It'll be interesting to see what does happen. I think a quick turnaround for Ian would be good. I think I really want my number one. What I want is the Leon Edwards fight in March in London. What I expect to get is probably a Joaquin Buckley fight night main event in the back arse of nowhere somewhere in the fucking States, where that fight should be happening in Dublin, but that's what we're probably going to get. And again, at the end of the day, we're shouting for UFC Dublin here. They were willing to put on Buckley versus Ian Garry in Tampa in Florida. You could have booked out the 3 Arena in Dublin for that fight. I'd love to know the capacity of that arena in Tampa, but
I assume we've given up on the Covington fight.
Yeah, love to see that, but Covington is not taking that in a month of Sundays, not in a month of Sundays.
And it wouldn't end well for him.
Ian destroys him. I think Ian destroys a Wonder Boy. I think Ian does very well against the Kamaru Usman. I think it'll be a tighter fight, but I think Ian does well against that kind of style too. And I kind of seeing Ian coming up against the young blood in in that division, I think is kind of what I want to see. The likes of Buckley or Leon. I think Leon is the one. It's a fascinating technical fight, but interesting to see. We'll find out sooner rather than later, I would imagine.
Considering he didn't win, Paul Hughes now has the opportunity to get the non-McGregor Ireland's biggest win now again.
That's true. Yeah, that the over and back that's going to be happening for many years to come too, which is great for us to be standing on the sidelines and watching it. But unfortunately for Andreeas Binder, he is no longer the only man to have ever defeated Ian Garry. But he did go on. And
that's a good transition. But
it was brilliant.
We're playing chess, not checkers here. We're playing chess, not checkers here, lads. He did become a two-way LFL champion. And taking home the welterweight title against Melvin Sansujam by a second round TKO. The man's got fire in his hands. Great performance, Andy. Great win for Binder, the SBG Charleston man.
Yeah, Binder looked fantastic. She's seeing the size of. Let me read this name here because I can't remember. Van Sydem, I think it's.
Van Sydem, yeah.
Like he looked a lot bigger than Binder. Binder, obviously, he's gone between lightweight, welterweight. Obviously, we've talked about the weight issues. No issues this time at all. Went in here, became the double champ, the two-way champion in NFL. And like what stands out to me time and time again with Andreas Binder is, as you said, like he is dynamite in his hands. It seemed like Van Sydem was having success early on with the leg kicks, and like he was landing some nice shots. But it just like the difference between when Binder would connect, like he cracked him with a big overhand right.
You could see the impact of the strikes. They were affecting Melvin. Every time that he was touching him, really.
Yeah. Like he just was really, really hurting him. Like in the first round, he caught him with a huge overhand right that really hurt him. He won that round definitely. He had a minor moment of kind of adversity towards the end. He got judo thrown. I think it was Nuchimata. I'm going to pretend that I know what that is. And and had his back taken, but then he came out again and in the second round landed an absolute peach of an overhand right and then finished it on the ground with the follow-up shots. He just has that touch of death. And like Binder, it's great to see him back winning. I'd be very interested to see him now coming into 2025. I think he's put to bed that period where he was having the issues with the weight. I think welterweight, he clearly has the power for welterweight, so I don't think the weight class is an issue for him. I definitely think that's his path moving forward, and I'd like to see him get a shot on one of the bigger shows now, whether that be a PFL or it's so hard to get into the UFC directly these days, unless maybe you're managed by certain people or whatever. But maybe a run towards that contender series in August, I could definitely see him having. To be honest, he's kind of made for that. Like he's a guy who finishes fights, so he'd be perfect on that.
Yeah, it'd be interesting. If we're being real, Caoilte, I don't think the PFL would be the best route next for him if he was hoping to get onto contender series. So, there's other avenues there that you could go down. Maybe your Braves, your UAE Warriors again. It'll be interesting to see. But, LFL have been good to Binder, and it'll be interesting to see what is next. What would you like to see next for him?
Yeah, I wouldn't personally think the PFL route, is the best right now, especially after what's happened in the past. Maybe if it was on standby or kind of a last minute type of job, but I would like to see, or maybe if the Ultimate Fighter were having a welterweight division, I wouldn't mind seeing him in that. I think that'd be a nice shout.
Not the worst show either, because there is a new season coming up as well. So.
Yeah, and I'm not sure if there's been weight class announced, but if the welterweight was an option, I think it would suit him quite well, because he can make that without having to cut a ridiculous amount of weight, I believe. So I would like to see him on the Ultimate Fighter if that was a possibility. Now, if the UFC was out of the question completely, I feel I feel like the likes of a KSW and those are overlooked at times, considering the stars that can be made inside those organizations. If you look at the likes of Phil DeFries, for example, and the runs they go on.
Oh my goodness! I just checked it. Sorry for interrupting you there, but I just checked because I thought I'd seen something about the season 33 of the Ultimate Fighter. The two weight classes in the Ultimate Fighter are flyweight 125 and welterweight 170. So,
ooh, there we go.
That's the play for that's the play. I think here that is the.
I think it's perfect.
Yeah, 100%.
That usually starts record or filming kind of the first quarter of the year, doesn't it?
Yeah, they'll normally come in around. Yeah, they'll normally go around March or April to record, and then it normally comes out maybe at the end of June or July or something like that. So I mean, yeah, that lines up perfectly there. I mean, you got a 2-weight world champion going in there from the LFL organization. I mean, maybe you could go and get one more win somewhere else before that to kind of seal the deal. But those tryouts, I would imagine, would be going on fairly soon. So,
well, look, if he has a manager worth his salt at all, he'll get in there surely.
Yeah,
100%, 100%. You're going to get it for that one, Stevenson. Let's talk about George. Let's talk about George Gross.
Hello, Paul.
Let's talk about George Grosjean. We've been watching George for the last couple of times. I know you're a huge fan, Andy, of George, and coming over here, getting an out triangle choke as well. I mean, giving John Mitchell a run for his money, I would say with this one, but we'll see. Time will tell. We'll announce that maybe on the next episode of the out triangle.
Jack
McGuire. Sorry, who did I say?
John Mitchell. MMA Cork, though, to be fair.
Yeah, they're all the same.
JM, both JM.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, great win again here for
he's I actually think that he might be the most underrated fighter in Irish MMA right now. Like, I feel like he has been just since he's turned pro, he's just looked absolutely phenomenal, and he looks so well rounded. Like, I maybe it was just me being biased on the Irish side, but I was listening to the commentary kind of early on in this fight, and they were kind of really bigging up his opponent and being like, "Geez, he looks amazing. He looks so quick." And I'm watching it thinking, like, Grozov, like, okay, yeah, like, he's not throwing a lot early, but he's literally just getting his reads. He's collecting the data. He's managing his distance incredibly well. And he got caught with a couple of shots, but nothing really impactful at all. And then literally he just, like a knife through butter, ties him up, gets him down, transitions between about 4 different submissions. I think he had a choke into I can't remember the first
armbar into a triangle.
Yeah, and like he's just clinical, and he looks really, really solid in all areas. He's a complete finisher. He's he can see a finish coming. And yeah, I'm just very, very impressed with him. He's had a great year, obviously, since turning pro. He's finishing every fight that he's had. And like the sky is the limit for him. I think, like, Paddy Hoolan has done a great job with him there, and I'm very interested to see Grozov in 2025. I think we'll see him probably on that Cage Warriors Dublin show. I'd be surprised if we didn't. Obviously, I think he had a fight in Cage Warriors already, didn't he? It was the last show on the RDS. So yeah, look, I'd love to see him just stay active now, 2025, and I wouldn't be surprised if we see him, 7-8 or 7-8-0 by the end of 2025. That's absolutely possible.
Sure,
so yeah, he's brilliant.
Yeah, unbelievable. I think he is one of the prospects that we're going to see break out. I know I would agree with you in saying that he's probably flew somewhat under the radar in 2024, and he moves to 3-0 now. Is it after that win, or 4-0?
Let me check. I'm forgetting. I had it here in my head, and my mind's just gone blank. He's 3-0. Yeah,
3-0 right now, and a couple of big
all
fights.
First round finishes. So,
like when the fight, with Caoilte, with Grosjean, when the fight hits the mat, that it's going to be over sooner rather than later. That's why he's been doing so far.
Yeah, he's been absolutely savage as soon as he gets to the mat, and I find it mad that he's gone so under the radar. And when I think about it, because like first round finishes, and we're not seeing him take I don't want to say the usual route, the more common route taken nowadays, where people find it difficult to get matched and end up with kind of, I don't want to say gimme fights, but not as big a tests as they are maybe available, and he's taken really tough fights. You know, his last fight was last fight before this against Tommy Brunning, who's a serious prospect in the UK at Cage Warriors, and this one, Ali Popescu, another guy early on his pro career, very good, a very, very highly touted prospect from the sound of things, the way LFL were talking, and he looked good, but Grozov just steps up every single time and kind of improves as they go on. And yeah, like I'm absolutely buzzing to see what he can do over the next year, because he's one of the most exciting around at the moment, and I think it's right that he gets all the credit at this point.
Yeah, indeed, couldn't agree more. Andy, take us through real quickly. Anderson Castro was also in action, making it 3-for-3 at LFL. A very successful night for the Irish. Now, LFL has been kind to the Irish in 2024, so credit to them. But Anderson Castro went out there, first round TKO, took an undefeated guy and took his O, and looked good doing it too.
Yeah, exactly. He's fighting Canherson or Stanhurst, I don't know how to pronounce that name. 3-0. Looked really good. I mean, Castro is a beast. Like, the power that he has is very impressive. He landed some great shots early, got the fight to the mat, and then he transitioned from the mount to the back. He was going for the arm triangle choke, didn't quite have it, but then kind of finished the round really, really dominantly, landed some heavy shots, and ultimately. That was it. He cut open his opponent. The doctor stepped in after the first round and said that they'd seen enough, and that was all she wrote. And Anderson Castro, the record, he was coming into this 6-8, but like he's very, very dangerous, and I think he's one of those fighters where if maybe I don't know if it's activity or I don't know what it is, but like if something can click, he could go on a run for sure. It's just you see some fighters where they've got a real
he's better than his record suggests.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm trying to say. In a roundabout way, I was getting there. Basically, he's better, and he's vicious, and he's dangerous, and he's got heavy hands. And yeah, fair play to him. So yeah, a really, really solid win here for Castro.
100%. PFL Leon, we'll talk about that a little bit. We'll continue with the European MMA action, and we'll bring in Will Fleury here for his interview ahead of his Oktagon 65 fight with Karlos Vémola. Highly anticipated fight. They've done such a good job in building this one. I'm really looking forward. It's on December 29th. I'm going to throw it over to myself and let Will talk us through the build up to that fight and the fight itself. A lot of people say this time of the year, 'tis the season to be jolly, but 'tis the season to be raw with our next guest here, Will Fleury, as he's getting prepared for a massive fight against Karlos Vémola, December 29th at Oktagon. Everybody is kind of settling down for the year, Will. Everyone is getting ready for the Christmas holidays. You're gearing up. You're getting ready. 2 weeks now until the big fight. You must be massively looking forward to the opportunity.
Yeah, I'm absolutely buzzing, to be honest, man. And like that, everyone's winding down for the year, and like I feel like this is the best time of year to fight. It's just there's a buzz, and then I think because everybody else is not active, it kind of gives you a bit more of a buzz to be active around this time of year. You know what I mean? That you're going to be one of the few people fighting, and there's going to be a fair bit of like focus on it. And obviously Oktagon are hyping the shit out of this one, so yeah, it's a mad buzz at the moment.
Do you ever think that you were going to be in a position like this to be fighting on December 29th for a world title on January 1st this year, Will?
Yeah, not specifically like that, but I thought things like this would be possible. Yeah, 100%. That I wouldn't have said doing it if I didn't think I could have achieved something like this, or that I'll go on to achieve better things afterwards. But I'm really, really happy with how everything's worked out this year so far, and very, very determined to continue to get my career going like this, and to make the absolute best of the time that I have left. Because I feel like I could have done a hell of a lot more with the career I've already had. And thank fuck, finally things are starting to go the right way and starting to happen. And there's huge opportunity here in my eyes. Oktagon are doing fucking big shows in Germany all the time. Karim Engizek, who was the middleweight champ, just called Karlos out because he wants a shot at the belt. And I was like, well, mate, he's not going to be champion in 2 weeks' time. So if you want a shot at that belt, come up, have a shot at me, and give me a chance off your belt. And like the ability, even the fact that that's now a thing and there's going to be a narrative around that, and they're able to sell big shows in Germany, it's fucking class. I'm loving the buzz of that. Like,
what can you say about Oktagon as a promotion for some of the opportunities that they've been able to give to you? Because, like you said, they're really hyping up this fight, and it seems that the two of you, like you as a fighter and Oktagon as a promotion, is kind of a match made in MMA heaven. The way that they're feeding into your kind of promotional style. You just caught us before you came on. We were watching the face to face with Karlos Vémola. They're really buying into you as a fighter. All of the, quote unquote shit talk that you bring and the excitement you bring to fights as well. They're really kind of giving you that kind of a boost, haven't they?
Big time. Look, they're good at what they do, but in one way, and I don't mean like this isn't diminishing them at all. Like, I feel like all I've ever fucking needed was a platform where I could have the ability to go out and show what I actually fucking am. And again, like, it's not me coming out here being like, oh, lads, I've always been fucking class and nobody ever gave me a chance. No, I had chances and I fucked them up. But I also feel within those fucking promotions, I was kind of like a nameless, faceless character, like the likes of Dara Kelly or Kieran Clark are these days, where they're fucking incredible men and incredible fighters. And yet, to 99% of the fan base, they don't know their fucking story. They don't know anything about them. Oktagon do a very good job at showing that shit, so fair fucks to them. But in a way, you also have to be that mad, interesting cunt. So that has actually always been me. So, it's good. Yeah, like you said, it's a good match. But I feel like more like Oktagon, yeah, they do well. But Jesus, most promotions make an absolute fucking balls of it. Like I'm watching that PFL card last night and like they have this Doombay Decide shit on. And it's like, that's just a bunch of fucktard American executives sitting in a room somewhere going like, oh, Doombay Decide, oh, great idea. It's like, lads, this doesn't fucking work at all. Like, and even just buy into the fucking talent of the lads you have and tell their stories and make them look fucking good. Don't be talking shite about some other guy while there's two lads in there fucking giving the best 15 minutes of their lives for the next 6 months to you. Focus on them at least, like. And look, in fairness, Brian Lacey with Oktagon, he's fucking great commentary, he's a great hype man. The whole team at Oktagon, they do a fucking good job of actually promoting the fight and making the fight significant and building a narrative around that. But it's like, why is that not standard? Why is that not what every fucking promotion is doing?
I guess it's the level of activity that you're being allowed to get this year as well. Like, this will be your third fight too. So, they're promoting, but they're also, in a time where maybe the likes of some former Bellator fighters, PFL fighters are being very outspoken about being put on the shelf and not being given these opportunities to fight. Not for you. Like I said, third fight this year. And, that's
since April. So like,
it
was April 20th before I fought this year. And then like, sure, my last fight was only December, say 8 weeks ago. So like 8 weeks ago, I'm going to fight again in 2 weeks. So that's 2 fights in 10 weeks. So yeah, great, fucking incredible. And like, I'm really, really grateful for that and that opportunity. And it's shit, like, I genuinely feel for lads like, look at fucking the likes of Pitbull there. And he's had this amazing career. And fair enough, he's had a fair few opportunities. But like, guys like AJ McKee, but guys like Patchy Mix, and they're great fucking fighters. And they're not getting hyped like they should be at all. And they're also not getting the opportunities to fight. It's like, man, that's a shit one. And like, please God, they've done all right. They've made fucking decent money throughout the rest of their career. But it's fucking sad to see things like that happening.
Yeah, lucky for you, you don't have that problem, obviously, coming up ahead of this fight.
Thank God, and I appreciate the fuck out of that. Like,
yeah, indeed. I want to go back to your first fight in Oktagon, which was in April this year against Daniel Skivor. Out a really good arm triangle choke. You come through a lot of trials and tribulations ahead of that fight to get into that position. You went out. Yeah, you went out there, got the win in the second round. And, I saw, look at you, we always respect you for your rawness and your honesty. We saw visible emotion after that fight. I watched one backstage interview and you broke down, you were upset, and understandably so. It was a very hard time for you, I would imagine, coming off of the drug test failure, not knowing where your career was going to be going, whether you were going to get these opportunities again. And I guess it was a kind of a realization that, that fight was the start of you kind of rebuilding your career to where you wanted to be again. Would I be correct in saying that? What was your mentality and what was the mindset and where did those emotions come from at that time, Will?
Oh yeah, that was fucking crazy week or two around that period because like I'd broken a hand sparring with Sean fucking 10 days out. I'm a little over 10 days out from the fight. Um and I didn't realize like I didn't know if it was broken for the first day or two because I got it x-rayed and it showed up kind of as a slight fracture in the first x-ray and then I sent the images to Owen, one of the doctors back here, and he was like, "No, that's definitely a Bennett's fracture." He was like, "Get them to X-ray from a different angle," and they did, and it was massive. It was badly broken in the end. Um, and then it was a case like because when I got the initial X-ray, I was like, "No, I can fight with this. That's fine." And then getting the second X-ray was like more of a fucking dose, and I hadn't fought in over a year at that stage. Yeah, it was April 1st was the fight that I got banned from, and then it was coming into April 20th, so. It was a bit like, right, are you going to be able to make it? Like, you've just spent a year fucking, deciding whether, like I said all this shit in the interview with Andy that time as well,
Yeah.
but I couldn't really, it was a mad period of time. And I was like, what am I actually getting out of this in comparison to the amount of effort I put into this? And it was very fucking hard to justify that. And also, I suppose having to deal, like, I did that interview with Andy and it was like it was a period of time where I really didn't feel like I fucking needed that much questioning on that whole. Because I'd say about 6 months before that, I could have given you a really eloquent interview about like, yeah, this is the headspace I was in when I made that decision, and this was that, and that was that. And then I was already fucked with that, with the hand been broken and going into a fight and deciding like committing to it, being like, no, fuck you. You've told yourself you're this person all your life. Now you have the chance to go and fucking prove that to yourself. And that in itself was pretty emotional for me. I remember like, because I couldn't fucking train, so all I was going was like doing was going out running, and I was like on the assault bike and extreme couture on it every day, and it was just like, you get to fucking show you who you are now. And that, like in itself, that kind of like batten down the hatches mentality just makes you a little bit emotional in general. And then on top of that, it was like, now you're going to be labeled as this fucking steroid dude for the rest of your career, regardless. So why the fuck are you doing all of this? And in a way, it was like, you just have to fucking enjoy this. You just have to make it something that you're proud of and that you want to go and fucking do. And after that fight, there was a wave of like, yeah, you fucking went and did this, you mad cunt. And like, I was way more nervous for that fight than I have been for fucking years because I didn't know what I was getting involved in. And it was that just release of like, you fucking did it, fair fucks to you, like. And yeah, I'm still proud of that. Like, I'm still fucking, I'm satisfied with that's the fucking man I am. I showed myself who I was that couple of weeks. And like, look, fuck, you can't get too far up your own arse. Like, you better, like, there's plenty of people out there now who have better fucking skill sets than I have, and I'm chasing that, and I want to get better and better as a martial artist. But I did fucking enjoy having that done and like going through that in a fucked up way allowed me to be a bit more like, yeah, fuck it, you'll go through whatever you need to go through. And also, yeah, just it was a weirdly more like I'd say that win felt very different than any of the other wins recently, like or over the last couple of years even.
Yeah, that's what I kind of wanted to highlight because it felt like a different interview, and obviously knowing what we know now with the injuries and everything like that, it kind of seemed to me that you were looking at yourself in the mirror and going to make a decision whether you were actually going to continue your career
Yeah,
at a certain stage.
yeah, like 10 days before that fight was fucking. I was on such a high to be coming back. I was so excited out there. Training in Vegas was going really well. I was like, whoa, I've gotten to this fucking level. Like, all things are possible now. And like, you asked me at the start, like, oh, did I ever see myself in this position? Yeah, kind of, because like I've been fucking able to do really good shit against people in the gym for fucking years. And like, everywhere I go, I feel like, fuck, man, I'm at a damn good level here. Why can't I make a real legit career out of this? And I was on that high of like, yep, you're going to go in, you're going to absolutely smash this. This promotion's well set up that you could go and fucking be a champion pretty quickly. It's all there, it's all lined up for you. And then I fucking physically felt my hand breaking against Shaw. Like, it was just a loose overhand, boom, hit the elbow. And it was like, fuck, this shit again. And it was very like, you're fucking, I was what? Yeah, I was already 35 at that stage. And you were sitting there on, like, I remember being outside in the fucking hospital, like, just sitting waiting for the x ray, being like, this is a fucking ridiculous thing for a 35-year-old man to be doing. Like, what the fuck are you at with your life? You know, and you haven't earned any money properly from this shit in a year either. So like, why are you putting this much into it, you stupid fucking twat? Like, and yeah, I suppose just to be able to be here now and being actually in a position to really get shit out of it, that's pretty fucking cool to me,
Well, I
you
think.
know?
Go ahead, Andy.
No, I was gonna say, I know, like, for every fighter, for a lot of fighters, you know, everyone says, you know, you go into fights with injuries, but I feel like you know,
Yeah.
you showed me the
constant
hand
story.
before that interview, but additionally, like, I remember interviewing you in SBG where I think you'd done your ankle in as well. It seems,
Mm.
you know, I imagine that was frustrating because it seems like it's been a recurring trend for you where you're kind of going in compromised to a lot of your fights. I know, like, fighters generally say that everyone goes in to some
Yeah,
degree,
you
but
do.
yours seem to have significant injuries going into your fights a lot of the time.
Yeah, no, the Jocko one, like, so Jocko, I tore a load of ligaments about 3 weeks before, but with ankles, you can fucking strap them. Like, so that was for like the MRI I got was like, geez, your ankle's absolutely fucked. But I knew that once I could strap it, it was fine. And then there was a mad story behind all that where like a half an hour before the fight, the commission came in and were like, oh, you can't do that without neoprene wraps. And fair fucks to Sean Strickland, man. The guy went off and bought those neoprene wraps in a Walmart. Like, he drove down to some Walmart and got it sorted and it was all grand. Like, but that was like 10 minutes before the fucking fight. So there was a lot of stress that night as well. um, but yeah, look, I've gone into some fights fairly fucked up and compromised. And Tariq fight for the title, I did in my ankle, really, the other ankle, really badly before that. But it's funny with those ones, it was like, look, you know what you're dealing with. Whereas with the hand, it was badly fucked, and it was like, I don't know what I'm going to be able to do on the night because I couldn't even train. You know, like, I could run, I could do things on an assault bike, but even on the assault bike, I couldn't even fucking grip the bike fully. Like, so like, you know, and then I could do a little bit of shadow boxing, and that was it. And it was like, right, you're going to go in and fight this lad. How are you going to do it? Like, you know, so it's a different, like, look, yeah, you do go in and not 100% a lot of the time, but there's levels, you know, and that was a fairly fucking high level of fucked up. So it was a little bit more intense and a little bit different. Like, look, the other ones, it's like, yeah, you know, you're not going to be able to do certain things the way you'd like to be able to do them. But that was like, what are you going to be able to do? And how bad is it going to be? Are you going to feel some bone floating around in your hand? And like, at one stage when I was hammer fisting, it was like, oh, I can feel the bone fucking moving around, which was mad. But I think I had it nearly won at that stage, so I didn't give a fuck. But yeah, that was crazy, all right.
Yeah, I mean, you know, that was obviously the reminder that you needed and why you do what you do, why you compete as a fighter. And I think you got a further reminder of that, Will, against Pavel Langer. I mean, the setting there, 60,000 people, 50, 60,000 people stadium in Frankfurt, huge occasion, huge opportunity for you to go in there and you know, what we would have figured at the time, and I would assume you would too, is to kind of seal the deal and give yourself an almost a guaranteed title shot by going out there and beating Langer. What was that experience like, Will?
Yeah, it was kind of, as you'd expect, pretty incredible, but funnily enough, very casual at the same time. And I know that it's a complete contradiction in a way, but I was just amazed at how normal everything felt to me. Like, walking out, everything, like, we went out to the stadium beforehand, and I knew, like, look, you've never fought in a stadium before. There's going to be a fucking big enough crowd when you get there. It's going to feel a bit special. So I had myself kind of like, I gave myself a bit of a talking to a couple of days beforehand, being like, when you get there, it's the same shit you always do. You're fighting a cunt in a cage. Do you know? So you just go in and fight a cunt in the cage. That's ultimately what's going to happen tonight. But I was like, be prepared to be a bit more like, whoa, fuck, than usual. So I went out, we saw the stadium, like, it was fucking cool. It was well done. It was like the production and like even the lighting and all that sort of shit. It's like, wow, they've invested a fair bit in this, like, and fair play to them. They do it really well. So when we got out there and we saw it all, like, I was with Tommy Martin and Andreeas and Dara Kelly, right? And like, I was looking around, and Dara was fairly grand, he was casual enough, but like, I could see Tommy and Andreeas were a bit like, whoa, fuck, you know. And then we got in backstage again, and like, there was a tension with the lads. And I nearly felt like, I'm going to have to be the one to break that, you know. So I was just being casual as fuck, joking around and like trying my best just to get it back to like, lads, this is the same shit we always do. Just relax. It's fucking grand. And like, I'm very fucking proud of the fact that you know, it didn't get to, like, honestly, once I started warming up, it's just like, yeah, it's the same shit, man. You know? And that's how I felt going out there. It was like, you're going to be able to, like, I've worked my sequences, you know, myself and Owen Pluck had done a lot of work before this, was just like pretty much what happened, you know, like tag him, move, let him swing, come back in, tag him, get him towards the cage, bang, you know. And that's fucking pretty perfectly how it played out, thank God. And it just like, it felt very normal. It felt very like easy and very like just, yeah, routine in a weird way. And it shouldn't, because that was incredible and it was a really special event. But I remember getting backstage and being a bit like, fuck, could go again. Wouldn't mind, like, it just felt very like, could we do this next week again? Like, because the buzz of it was class, but it's gone very quickly, you know. And then I needed something more. It's like, I need a bigger thing. I need to, like, why wasn't I the fucking main event? Why the fuck she put me on the prelims, you cunts? Like, and like, there was that kind of vibe to it all, where I just feel like I'm designed for bigger things now. I have the skill set for bigger things. Give me something fucking bigger than that. And that, like, and look, like, I went in healthy in that fight. I genuinely was, like, my thumb out, like, was fucked up. It's still fucked from the surgery a bit, but like, besides like dealing with a little few issues from that, otherwise I was pretty much 100% going into that fight. And I like it was a good performance. I'm still like, when I watch it, I'm just like, yeah, nice, you did what you should have done there. And like, okay, it's not the fucking best guy in the world, but like, you picked him apart as you would if you were the one of the best fighters in the world. So I was glad to get out there and show that. And it's like, now give me the opportunity to show you I can do that against higher level guys. And thankfully, like, look, obviously the main thing was getting that Karlos fight, and he's a huge name over there. As in, I don't think, like, it's funny, but like, the vibe with Oktagon, like, they've created their own thing over there. And I don't, like, Irish fans don't get it, like, how big it is over there. Because, like, it's fucking big, like, Oktagon in Czech Republic and in Germany is like KSW is in Poland, where, like, there's a lot of people who just follow the fighters and who are, like, there's a lot of media based around it. Like, the press conferences are all packed. People are into it over there. It's cool. It's really fucking class to be part of it. And it's a different atmosphere. It's more like, kind of, they respect guys who lose a bit the odd time, and they have a nicer fucking attitude towards it in a lot of ways. And in a lot of ways, it's the same shit it is in, America and in Ireland and all that type of thing. But like, yeah, sorry, you asked me about Frankfurt. Frankfurt was fucking class.
Just on Frankfurt, really quick, you that was the first time you got a KO, I believe, since, what was it, 2017. And can I just ask, how was what was the emotion like to finally get that finish? Because I know you're probably so eager for that for all this time. You had the submissions, a lot of decisions, you were in some fantastic fights, but to finally get it and in the fashion you did, what was it like when that moment happened?
You can't both sound like a company say something like this, but I expected it. Like, I've worked for that for ages, and I felt like I could and should have done it. And look, Eoin, when he came in on board, like, so I've been working with Davy Jones and Andreeas and Eoin, like, I probably do on average fucking 10 to 15 pad sessions a week now. Maybe not quite, maybe more. Like, I do 3 some days, but nah, it'd be like 2 most days. So like somewhere between like 8 and 12 pad sessions a week on average. And all of, like, Owen, Davy Jones and Andreeas all have their own individual styles. But I've learned like a lot of really good shit from all of them, and I've blended it in. But like, to be honest, Owen works with high performance team. You can feel it. You're like, whoa, shit, as soon as you start, like, he'll point very fucking small things out to you, and they make a massive difference over a period of time. So like, I showed him the Anthony Salamone fight. I was like, why do you think I'm not knocking these cunts out? And he was just like, your stance is a little bit too bladed. You're not able to get your back hip in things fully, like. And we just worked on that for a little while. And then even in my spars, I just noticed, like, oh yeah, as soon as I'm touching people, I'm hurting them significantly more. Like, I was always really good at in and out fighting, like, where like I was quite good at like touching and not getting hit too much. And I could land, like, I dropped, like, I hurt a lot of people in spars and whatever, but like, I just noticed it's like, oh, you're well set up to land all the time. You're in a position. Like, if you watch Ilia Topuria, he's very good at that kind of like, he's in a low base all the time and his ass is ready to fire all the time. And that's kind of one of the things that changing the stance a little bit, not too crazy much, but like a bit has done for me. So I was expecting to be able, like, it was only a matter of time. And I felt that, like, there was a kind of a quiet confidence of, like, yeah, sure, of course. It's not like I ever doubted that I could knock the fuck out of guys or that anybody, like, look, here's the other, it goes both ways. We're big men and we're wearing fucking small gloves. So, like, that can happen to you. So keep that chin fucking tucked in and, don't doubt that if it contacts you, it's going to be the same shit. Like, but yeah, I wasn't shocked at all that I was able to knock him out. It was just like satisfying to get it done and get it done in like a pretty impressive fashion because the footwork beforehand, the setup, everything was nice. I was very proud of that. Like when I saw the footage afterwards, I was like, oh yeah, that was tight. Like that was a tidy knockout. Like, but yeah, I wasn't like shocked by any means.
Really,
Sorry, go ahead, guys.
so you were very persistent. Coming off the back of that win, you did everything in your power to make this Vémola fight happen. It seemed, at least for a period of time, that was not the direction that they maybe wanted to go in.
No.
But I guess with you can give yourself as much of a pat on the back here as you want, but like, how much do you think it was off? Your back of going chasing that fight that we now have. This fight scheduled, the world title fight coming in just 2 weeks.
Yeah, this wouldn't be happening if I didn't do that. And I am proud as fuck of that. And I felt like I've been a lot quieter the last few weeks, like, because they've done an amazing job with social media shit that they're putting out now. And they've bought into the narrative that I was selling them, but it was me who created that. Like, they didn't buy into this. They look, Pablo and Andre, when I started talking shit in the cage, left the fucking cage to stop Karlos getting in there because they did not want that fight to fucking happen. That's the reality of this. And like, they didn't fucking want to build me as this. I was this. And like, the English-Irish thing didn't work out for them. So there was a natural stigma. And like, Andre still seems to have this little bit of like, fuck the English-Irish guys. But I think that they see eventually with me, it's like, oh shit, we've got a guy who can really go out and beat people and talk and fucking, sell and like do his thing. And, there's a chance here that he could be something very big for us long term. And that's why they're giving me a shot at Karlos. But I think it was more the actual consistent berating of them. And like, obviously, they wanted that Kinstle fight apparently, but Kinstle wouldn't take it. And it made sense that he wouldn't take it because he was a middleweight and he just lost and then had a car crash on the way home. And then Pirate getting injured benefited me massively. So look, I didn't doubt that I could do all this shit, but also thank fuck a load of factors have conspired in my favor to allow this to have happened. And I appreciate that. But I'm like, yeah, fuck that. I made this really happen as well. Like, me talking about all this shit nonstop and berating Karlos and calling him a pussy and all that type of shit, that made this real. And I'm proud as fuck of that. And I am giving myself a pat in the back. Fuck it, I'll take it, So, yeah.
I guess a big thing, as you're saying, with the storylines behind the fight, the way they build, and I think we've seen they're fantastic at storytelling and actually making a fight, and you've helped massively, and as you said, as you mentioned, you're very proud of it. But you're going in here now against a guy who is the guy who's he's made his entire career in Oktagon. He's a bona fide celebrity. It probably goes far. He's a celebrity over there, and what I find they love in Oktagon is they love a heel. I look at Shamrock, I look at Dennis Frimpong. They love a heel, someone who can sell, and someone who can be the villain in enemy territory. And it feels like in this one, you kind of play that part perfectly for them, especially with the Vémola side of things. How have you found there's been, I guess, much of a support from their side as well? Because everyone has their people who supporting Vémola, but he's gonna have his haters as well. But what's the reaction been for you then from the fans over in Czech Republic?
Fucking really interesting. So like, there's a lot of buy-in, so people care one way or the other, and that's all you really want. Like, as long as they give a shit, even if they hate you, grand. But when I went to Slovakia, I was amazed. Slovakians do not fucking like him at all. So in Bratislava that night when we did the face-off, 90% of the crowd, like, he got booed when he got in the Octagon originally because he was supposed to fight that night. And then when people saw me there, even before the fight got in, so, like, they put it up on the card earlier in the night as well, which kind of fucked the whole thing. So I think that was a complete mistake, and they just like unintentionally announced it. But basically, I was hanging around, like I was in the venue before the fight got, before the face-off and all that. And we were going kind of back and forth to the VIP section. And one thing they do really well is fucking the food in the VIP section is fucking amazing. And there's free beer. So I was going to town on that.
There's a load of spuds left out for you, didn't it?
There actually was a shitload of different types of potato. And it was myself and Tommy Martin went over, and I was like, "Here, Tommy, man, the VIP section's fucking savage, so don't eat all day." And he was busy as fuck when we got there. And as soon as we got in, he was like, "Geez, man, this is fucking unreal. I'm glad I didn't eat." But basically, we were going back and forth to that, and a load of fans, like every time I would, like, because where we were seated was fairly near the actual cage, and then the VIP section was kind of way out in the backstage area, like. So we had to walk right the way through the stadium every time. And like every time there would be like 30, 40 people coming over, kind of crowding you and like asking for photos, whatever. And they were really like into it. They were like, "Yeah, you're the guy you wanted to save the card. Fair fucks to you, like blah, blah. And like, I hope you smash him. Is he going to fight you? He's a pussy, blah, blah, blah." And like, there was like, obviously, if they're coming over to me, they're not going to be the big Karlos fans. But like, one or two guys were like, "Oh, I hope you get the fight. But, obviously, I support our own, blah, blah." But 99% of them were like, "Fucking, I hope you smash him." And then when he got booed coming in, I was like, "Oh shit, they really genuinely don't like the guy here." Now, I assume in the Czech Republic, there's a hell of a lot more support from him. I look at the Instagram comments and like a lot of them are supporting him and all that sort of thing. But I don't know if I'm quite a heel. I'm definitely like I'm provoking the fucking thing. But I'm not trying to be a total cunt to him either. And even like, look, he treated me like a fucking twat that night or that day in London. But so far in the actual build-up, he's been quite respectful. And I don't have any like actual personal issue with him. And I'm not going to go fucking slagging him off personally or like attacking his family or any of that shit, So I think there's a level of like, yeah, you're sort of playing the heel, but you're also having a little bit of respect. And I kind of think with with their culture, that works quite well because the whole organization seems a bit more, yeah, look, it's about fighting. You want to see a little bit of fucking niggle and a little bit of like, there has to be drama, there has to be something to lose. People have to it has to mean something. But at the same time, you don't want to see this fucking unsavory shit that we've seen in the last couple, that's becoming more like, look, the likes of fucking Colby Covington and all this type of shit. Like, you don't need that. It's not fucking, So I'm trying to sell something that's a bit more fucking authentic and a bit more like there's an actual story here. And the story is I give a fuck about being an amazing athlete. And if you're going to come in and challenge that, yeah, fuck you. And like, I want this belt really badly. I do want to fucking right that wrong of like, you thought you were the man one day because you fucked up my ankle in London. And now the shoe's on the other foot and I'm going to come in and kick the shit out of you. There's all that. And it's very real. But like, I don't feel like you have to fucking go out of your way to sell. Like, I don't know, they've done a great job selling it. And I feel like my character does fit this quite well. But they also, because they'll give me more than 5 seconds to express who I am, people can fucking see a bit more what I actually am. And they're like, the character that is there, people buy into a little bit. And there's a lot of fucking, I shied on a bit too long. Obviously, sometimes I'm doing it right now. But like,
not at all.
There's a level of like, I've lived this fucking life for a long period of time. I'm naturally fucking somewhat fascinating because I've decided to go and do this shit with my life. And also like, you don't get here without being a bit of a fucking manhunt in the first place. So like, there's that, and you can see it. So just show what it is, and I'll go in and fucking do the business. And as long as I'm actually damn good at fighting, like I say I am, it's going to keep happening, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%. Like, you kind of echoed a lot of the way I was thinking too. Look, at you say Oktagon have done a good job in building this fight, but you've done a good job in building this fight too. You've said you've called your shots from the very first moment that you got involved with Oktagon. You've said and done everything that you said you were going to do. You've been respectful with the shit talking process as well, as you said too. It's been tasteful, and I think all of that accumulates and makes this fight a little bit bigger. But one thing, and you mentioned it already, was that incident in London, and you shared some time with him, you trained with him, and there was an injury there. It's added that extra bit of bite into this fight. What happened in that scenario, or do you want to go into that detail? And
yeah, I don't mind. But like, look, obviously, it's been made a big deal of because it's kind of like a nice little promotional factor in the fight. to me, the actual venom of it was gone for a while. So, like, I was using it as a thing to get the fight because it did happen. Like, you know, it's fucking real. It did happen. But the energy out of that, like, sure, it's fucking 10 years ago. Like, you move on, you get over it. Like, lots of other shit happened in between. But I do remember that day. And he was a cunt. And I was only 3 weeks in London. And I was coming off a building site, fucking getting off work, going over and sparring a cunt. That all is real. Like, you know, that genuinely fucking happened. And he did fuck up my ankle and did walk out of the cage and act like a fucking twat. I was like, get another one in, basically. So it's like, yeah, 10 years later, mate, I have a chance, like, what, 10 and a half years later, I have a chance to come in and kick the fuck out of your home country. There is something kind of poetic about that. That is beautiful in its own way. And I got like, it was only after I started using it as a thing that I really sat down and thought about it. It was like, yeah, fuck, that's big. So now it means actually a little bit too, like, it was kind of like, I wouldn't say it was fake, you know, it fucking fully happened. But the energy of it to me wasn't quite like, I was like, ah, sure, I don't give a bollocks if you fucked up my ankle a couple of years ago. Like, it is something I deal with. Like, you know, I do actually still have to strap that ankle on a daily basis. So there's that. But it's not like I'm like, fuck you, Karlos, every day strapping my ankle. But I'm also like, yeah, you were a cunt. And I'm a good enough fighter. I made myself this guy. And now I can come to your home country and kick the fuck out of you. I'm very fucking proud of that. I'm very excited about doing that. You know? So I do get a little bit like, yeah, that's fucking real, Will. You did this. You know? Fair fucks. And just go and fucking do it now. That's the thing. It's not done yet. Like, and like, I've made mistakes in the past before by like feeling like, yeah, sure, you're way better fighter than this guy. You're going to beat him. And I did that in my Bellator debut against Alan Aminovsky. And the guy knocked the fuck out of me. You know? So do not make that mistake again. It's not done yet. Go in and fucking smash him now. But I'm very, very fucking confident that I have the skill set to do that. It's now just about showing up on the night and performing. And I'm very excited about the opportunity to go and do that.
How do you envision the fight going, Will? What are you kind of working towards here? Obviously, a finish. You've been saying that out loud, but when you're visualizing how the fight is going to go, how do you visualize that?
Yeah, like I said, I'd be gutted if I don't knock him out in the first round. He's very open. He comes forward head first. He tucks his head quite well, so that's a little bit awkward to deal with. So, like, if you don't time that properly, you're probably going to hit the top of the head. And I've broken my left hand enough fucking times to not want to hit the top of some cunt's head again. But, look, I've been working certain things to keep him a little bit more upright. And then, obviously, if he comes too far down too quickly, there's always the knee there. There's going to be a lot of options to finish him. And if I don't take advantage of one of those, I'll be a little bit pissed off with myself. But it doesn't matter. If I don't fuck him up in the first round, there's 4 more rounds to do it. And I will get this guy. I will fuck him up. I will finish him. It's just a matter of time. But I'll be a little bit disappointed if I don't do it early. I'll be a little bit disappointed if I don't do it in a fucking spectacular enough way. Because I have those abilities.
You get that finish, you get the belt wrapped around your waist, Will. What next? What next after that? What do you want for the rest of your career?
But there's a lot of options then. That's kind of one of the nice things, but also like, so the division I'm in right now is pretty weak, to be honest. Alex Popic was the logical #1 contender after this if he won his fight against Mark Ducis last weekend. He actually ended up getting DQ'd. It was a no contest DQ, but it probably should have been a DQ loss because he intentionally kneed the guy while the guy's knee was on the ground. I'm not like I'm delighted it wasn't a DQ loss because that would fuck up his career more and be a longer trajectory for him to get this fight. I was hoping he'd look shit hot and that he's German, so we could sell a good show over there in Germany. But he fucked it up a little bit. So now that Kareem Engizek fella came in shortly after that, challenged Karlos. That's beautiful. That works out lovely. So it's like, mate, you want a shot at this belt? Great, come up. You just owe me a shot at the middleweight title. There's also the Game Changer tournament at middleweight next year. The only fucking issue is I'd have to make weight 8 weeks after making weight for this. I'm a little bit lighter than I normally am at the moment, and I've kind of kept my weight a little bit lower just to kind of maintain that option. It would be a fucking balls to do it in fairly short. Like, I don't know if 8 weeks is enough for me to make middleweight right now. But if that is the only option on the table, I'll go and fucking do it. And also, that's pretty lucrative financially. So I'm interested. I know, like, you know, they've got a couple of good guys at middleweight. You know, they've got a couple of pretty big names. Now, your man, Engizek, isn't doing the tournament. Makhmed Murdoch, who was 4-1 in the UFC, he's not doing the tournament either. And that was a big one. I was like, ah, fuck it. I'd like, he's a really big name there. He's fucking huge in the Czech Republic as well. And he's like, he's probably not quite as big a celebrity as Carlos, but he would be considered a way bigger, like a better fighter overall. So having the ability, like, or having the opportunity to go in and smash him would be really fun. And the fact that he's not part of that game changer tournament kind of makes me a little bit less hyped about doing it. But there's always that option too. So after I smash Carlos, and like, look, first things first, smash Carlos, but there are options. And that's a nice place to be. Like, so there's the Alengazek fight. There's the possibility of waiting on a little while for Popic, but I'm not mad to go and do that, man. I know, like, you know, the ability to do really big shit is here. And like I was talking about Gustafsson, and I just saw he got signed with the GFL there, but then they're weird at this draft thing. So it's like they've nearly 400 guys signed and they're going to draft 120. So over 2/3 of that roster is going to be not actually signed. So it's just like they're pumping out a load of names, but who's actually with them? And obviously that shows that he's in, you know, in a place where he wants to take a fight now. So if any of them boys end up undrafted, the big names out of that, cool. Let's fucking get one of those guys in and let's go for that type of a show. And those, like, as long as, like, you get the right guy, you can start a real fucking legacy building thing. And then, like, look, long term, lads, and I know this is an Irish MMA podcast, like, so let's bring it back to Ireland a little bit here. You know, there's the possibility of doing the show in Dublin. And, like, I know, like, you talk about, like, you know, the little moments you have to yourself there, like, you know, breaking that hand in Vegas, and like, why the fuck are you still doing this? And right now, one of the big things that's getting me up in the morning is like the fucking thought of like, last fight been in the Tree Arena, fucking getting up, going to the fucking Tree Arena that morning. Just little shit like that that you're kind of like playing in your own head. And I feel like I can make that. I've made a lot of shit happen already this year. I can make that fucking happen. And I know right now that they're not like thinking that way. You know, they've seen England, Ireland as this thing that they poured a load of money into and that fucking burned them a little bit. It's like, no, 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 no. I can make this real. And I definitely have the ability fighting wise. I need to probably work on myself a little bit promotionally to make it more of a fucking product or whatever. And obviously, like, you know, the band there isn't fucking helping anything. But like, I don't know. You know, we have enough fucking talent in this country as well to like do a fucking really big undercard for that. And like, as long as I go out there and I keep beating the right fucking guys and building this the right fucking way, it's inevitable that it's going to get big enough for something like that to happen. And I'm very fucking emotional, like, or, you know, that means a lot to me. I'm very excited about that. And I'm very fucking like, I know myself, I have the ability to make that real. And now it's like, okay, like that. There's other little factors, you know, like, you know, your man Pirate getting injured is part of the reason I have this. I appreciate that. So, like, you need to be good, but you need a bit of fucking luck too in life. And I feel like fucking right now, the universe is really going with me. You know, every energy I'm fucking giving into this, I'm getting back out of it. And like, things have worked out really fucking well this year. Like, 2024 has been great. But I've no doubt that I have the ability to go on and make 2025 fucking amazing too. And then bring a show back to Ireland eventually. And I don't know if that, like, it, like, let's be real, it's not going to be early next year. It's not going to be fucking even at the middle of next year. But if there's a couple of big fights in between, you know, and I go and like first finish Carlos emphatically, make that real, make that something that's actually fucking happened, because the potential for that is there. Now it's like, just actually go in and fucking do that, you know, like, it's out there. I feel it every day. Now make it a reality, like, but then
100%.
beat the guys, do that thing that whatever you need to happen for this to be real, go and do that thing. But that's big to me. That's really fucking big to me. That's like, you know, like I could go out in that fucking stadium in Frankfurt and fucking smash the guy that way and not be emotional about it at all. Like, genuinely, that really didn't fucking. I walked back into the dressing room, was casual as fuck. I think if I was walking out in the Tree Arena for something that I knew might be my last fight, or, you know, something like that, be very hard not, like, you know, even now I think about that shit and I'm like, wow, fuck, that's big, you know. So I want things like that. I want things that make me feel, you know, and I want those holy fuck moments from my, like, for the fan, like, you know, for everybody else, so, oh, holy fuck. But also in my soul, I want that, like, oh man, you know, you feel very alive in those moments. And I'm craving those. Like, you know, I want to make as many of them as I can before I'm too old to do like this shit anymore. So yeah, like, that's one of the big goals as well.
For sure, and that's all you've been talking about in the build up to this fight as well, Will, is building that legacy for yourself. And you're well on the way in 2024 for doing that. I think your passion, your excitement, and your hunger for this fight makes it an exciting fight for me anyway, and I'm sure for the rest of the fans as well on December 29th. We really appreciate the time you spent with us today. You'd always been very generous with your time with us on the Auld Triangle and in general on SevereMMA. So we wish you all the best on that. I think Andy's as we're finishing here, Andy's kind of internet was giving him a bit of trouble, I think, during this interview. So
he's fucked off early. He doesn't even.
He's gone. He's like, maybe he's not as excited as what we are for the fight. I don't know, Will. But look,
take a list of my shine anyway.
It's all good. Not at all. Not at all.
I've always said it. That Andy Stevenson is a fucking cunt.
I love it. We'll always allow anyone to shit talk when he's not here. Yeah. Oh yeah, that's it. We're leaving that in. We're leaving that in. Will, December 29th, big fight in Oktagon against Karlos Vémola. As Andy comes back, we were wondering what was going on there. Yeah, we're
down lad.
Yeah, but as I was just getting wrapped up there, Andy, December 29th, Oktagon 65. Will Fleury goes over to enemy territory to try take the title from Karlos Vémola. If you're successful, we'll see. They take the title. They take the title.
Yeah. You always said it. You either do or you don't. Just fucking do it. Yeah.
Let's do it. We're looking forward to it. Everyone can tune into that. I believe in DAZN in UK and Ireland. Is that correct?
Yeah. So I think it's on DAZN. I'm fairly certain it's on DAZN, but then it's definitely on the Oktagon.tv. And in fairness, the pay-per-view price is pretty fucking reasonable. I think it's like 13 quid or something like that. Yeah. So like, it's not crazy, You're not going to get fucked.
And it's been a fantastic year for Oktagon as a whole too. They put on some tremendous cards, so you're definitely going to get value for money there. A late Christmas gift and getting the chance to see Will Fleury go for that title against Karlos Vémola. We're looking forward to it, Will, and hopefully we'll get to talk to you the next time with that title around your waist early next year. So wish you all the best. Thanks for the time again, my man.
Man. Appreciate it. Appreciate the coverage. Thanks, man.
Thanks, Will.
There was a new sheriff in town at PFL Leon, and that's Eoin Sheridan, who took home the unanimous decision win over Bryce Belghazi by unanimous decision. Very one-sided fight here, Caoilte. I mean, he controlled the striking, he controlled the grappling, did Shero. You could see, the hunger, and even though he didn't get the finish, I think the lack of action that he's had, and we spoke to him personally at Cage Legacy 23. He was like, fuck, I'm hoping that I'll have something soon. He's been longing to get matched up. It's been very difficult for him to get a match, and he got one here, and he got a valuable 15 minutes as well, and looked good in all areas. I mean, obviously coming in with a very established striking background, but looked good in the clinch, looked good when the fight hit the mat. Was mounting Belghazi and everything, and very, very one-sided unanimous decision win for Cheryl.
It was valuable 15 minutes. Went in against a guy fighting in front of his hometown. Literally goes in as the away fighter, enemy territory, sold out arena. And he showed he's not just a striker. That's the one thing that I liked. Because we got to see a lot of his grappling. Because look, to be honest, the Bryce Belghazi came in. He had one thing in his mind, and that was take on Sheridan down and try and get a submission. And Belghazi he didn't really come to fight, I want to say at times, because he was very happy accepting position on his back. He was just looking for the takedown, wasn't very active, didn't want to engage in the striking exchanges very much either. And I imagine it was a little bit frustrating for Eoin at times, because knowing his background and his ability on the feet, I imagine he would have liked to have kind of showcased those skills a little bit more. However, we did get to see how active he can be on the ground, and we got to see how strong he is on the ground as well between the transitions, some of the ground and pound he had, almost finishing it with submissions in the final round. So valuable 15 minutes. I imagine he might be a little bit frustrated with certain aspects of the fight, but a very dominant performance from him, and I hope he gets another fight inside the PFL soon.
Yeah, I hope he gets more than another fight. I think, Andy, you could be looking at a guy like Shero and setting him up for maybe a tournament next year. I know he's only like 2-0 right now, but he's very, he's better than his record suggests. That's kind of the trend of the last two fights that we talked about. It's like, that 2-0, but you see a guy that's much more advanced, I feel, with the training and obviously this previous striking experience as well. It might seem a little bit early for some fighters to throw them into a tournament at 2-0, but I don't think it's too early for a guy like Shero if they were to create a European welterweight division next year, perhaps.
Yeah, I mean, he's also, I think,
might get a couple of fights before that too.
Yeah, like I think he's in his 30s as well. Like he's in his early 30s already. So I think he is anyway. I'm pretty sure. But so like the time is now. You want to kind of get moving at that age early on, and I think he's an incredibly marketable guy. He's a popular guy. I think people would get behind him, and obviously, look at the frame of him. You don't really see that many fighters. I remember, I think it was Andy Hickey put up a photo of when he was training over in Thailand, and John Jones was doing a seminar, and like John Jones was showing him a technique, and he's like, look at the size of, like, obviously Sheridan looks a lot skinnier than John Jones, but like the height wise as well, and the range, and you don't see many people of his body type in at that weight class. Like he's a big guy, and of course, like he comes from a striking background. He picks guys apart, he dismantles fighters, and I think that's very entertaining for fans to watch as well. So
he fought his first fight at middleweight, didn't he?
A
lot of guesswork on this episode.
No, I thought it was welterweight. Yeah,
that's fair. But he does walk around like a middleweight. He's a big lump of a fella.
Yeah,
but it doesn't, like, I would imagine it's a big cut. What I was getting at with that was, it didn't look like the cut down looked to really affect his gas tank at all. He was still fresh in round 3 and still, moving forward.
Round 3 was like his most dominant round as well.
It was, 10-8 round, I would argue, for him there. So,
that paints a picture in itself. Like, if you're increasing, the gap between you and your opponent as the rounds wear on, there's clearly no issue with the gas tank there.
100%. Claudio Pichella defeated Oscar Owensworth, unanimous decision. Caoilte moves to 5-2. I really like Pichella as a fighter. Like, I think he's exciting. He's picked up a couple of great wins now, and moving on to 5-2, a little bit of a slow start to his career, but he's really coming into his own. I think it was a very successful 2024 for him, and I think he's got a big 2025 ahead.
Oh, I agree. He's exciting, and he hits like a truck. Constant pressure. He's always looking for the knockout. He was throwing bombs from the very beginning. Landed the overhand rights on Owensworth early on. Landed a good few of them. I'm surprised. Owensworth didn't go down from 1 or 2. Then he was mixing it up as well. He's going to the head and he switches up 2 hooks to the body, and like, my God, he really looked strong in there. And even when it was up in the clinch, he was able to break and land some nice strikes. Landed a lovely knee from the break at one point as well. That was just, you could hear it. It was top notch for the first 2 rounds. Like, he was dominant for the first 2 rounds. I don't know. I listened to commentary and they made it sound like it was a very close fight. I thought it was as clear as day for Pichella for the opening 2 rounds. The damage he was doing, the pressure, he was putting Owensworth under and actually landing effective, heavy strikes. Was just inarguable that those are both his rounds. Now, Owensworth came back into it a little bit there in the final round. I think he kind of knew that this was maybe make or break, and he started landing early, a few nice oblique kicks. Pichella got a nice little hook and wobbled him a bit. Owensworth was bleeding, and then I think near the end of the round there was like this kind of stabbing front kick to the body that maybe hit the liver, solar plex, not too sure, and Pichella was hurt, but defended well, protected the body, landed a nice shot at the end as well. But really exciting fight, brilliant to watch. Really enjoyed it, and a fantastic performance from him. I think that really would have put him in good stead with the PFL bosses.
You're muted there,
I owe everybody a coffee. That's a rule in work. If you talk on mute, you owe everybody a coffee. Valentina Scatizzi can feel a little bit unlucky with this stoppage. Look, she got hurt early, but she looked like she was on the road to recovery here, Andy. She was like, we talked a little bit before we started the podcast here, and I mean, in a fight, and I'm always going to say this, it doesn't matter who is fighting, a fight of this stature when there's so much on the line, look at wins and losses, they'll come and go, but this fight was for a 6-figure sum. I would have liked to seen it go a little bit longer here.
Yeah, like my initial and my reaction now is I thought it was early. Like, look, obviously, she rushed Paulina from the opening bell, got tied up in the clinch, and ate a heavy knee. She was kind of down on one knee and was eating a lot of shots. Like, there was a lot. Look, don't get me wrong, there was a lot of unanswered shots here, but they weren't like, I don't know, they just.
The problem with the stoppage.
I don't think it would have been stopped if it was two men in a cage there. I don't think it would.
Yeah, it's possible. Yeah. But I think it's the timing of the stoppage here. There might have been a moment where you could have stepped in after the initial shot where, you mightn't have been as argumentative, but like when you're in an upward movement and you're getting up from two knees up to one knee and you look like you're going to stand up and try and defend, and her reaction after it as well, she looked a little bit disappointed. But look at the tremendous performance from Agnieszka, and I thought Skatizi, because we know how tough she is. I mean, I don't know whether officials take this into account, but like, is there a certain level where you can kind of understand what type of fighters you have in there? And then, Valentina is known for her toughness, really, in there, isn't she? She's taken.
Been through the war already.
Absolutely. So, I mean, disappointing, but never look at. It could have went on for another 10 seconds, and she could have been slept. So we just don't know. I would have liked to have seen it going on a little bit longer. Like, she is tough. She might have gritted it out if she could have taken it into the later rounds. Who knows what could have happened? I mean, talking about the same person who, caused Chanel Dyer lots of problems in her last fight too. So. She'll be back, I would assume, and that was a disappointing loss for her nonetheless. And onwards and upwards into 2025, I guess. We had a great domestic show in Ireland on the 8th of December. That was Iúr Fighting Championships 13, pro fight and an upset, Andy, in the pro fight at the top of the card. A big upset in Dara Tolman being defeated via first round submission armbar by Dylan Douglas. And I know, you were, it was an upset. There's no disrespect to Dylan here. I mean, given the record, Dylan went into the fight at 0-5, now 1-5. Dara Tolman going in at 4-2. Dara got caught with a nice sharp 1-2 that kind of set the end sequence up in the main event. And this one, you're going to talk us through that, talk us through some of the rest of the highlights on the Iúr card as well.
That Iúr card was great. Just supposed to talk about the main card and the main event. Yeah, like Dara Tolman was coming in here. Look, Dylan Douglas. He was coming in, I think, 0-5 into this, but like, he's not. You see that on paper and you think, Dara Tolman's fighting a cat. That's not the case here. Dylan Douglas is a solid fighter. He's fought a lot of guys on the Irish regional scene, really, really tough opponents. I think at amateur he went to a split decision with Paul Hughes. He's a solid fighter. He just hasn't been able to make things click on the professional level at all up until now. And
he did on last Sunday night.
Well, like he wasn't going his way for the majority of this fight though. Like, Dara Tolman came in, he landed a 1-2 flush, dropped Douglas early, and he was looking like he was kind of cruising. Now, like, Douglas was landing some elbows from bottom, but Tolman spent most of the round on his back, and he basically, what happened, he was in top position and kind of had Douglas up against the cage, and he basically framed with his right hand to start unloading and landed some heavy ground and pound, and he was. But Douglas was right on it, saw it there, snatched the arm immediately and threw up the armbar. And he didn't get it at first, but immediately transitioned, or it kind of adjusted and got the tap quickly. And it was a complete upset. Tolman, like, it was great to see. Looking from Douglas's perspective, he was very emotional after the fact. You're a fighter who's had a solid amateur career, who's taken this very seriously, and you go 0-5, that's got to be very, very disheartening. And then you're in a fight where it's not going your way, and you manage to get this comeback submission. Obviously a great moment for him. Dara Tolman had a great support that was there for him, and I'm sure he'll be. This will sting for him. He was 2-0, I think, coming into this one. But yeah, look, there's positives to take for both fighters. Like, I would say from this one, Tolman looked really good up until he didn't, or up until Douglas got the submission. And for Douglas, what a moment for him to finally get off to winning ways as a professional. Now 1-5, and hopefully he can build from here. He's got a bit of a mountain to climb, but a really, really solid main event. The co-main event, Kieran Brady looked brilliant. We saw Kieran Brady at Cage Warriors earlier this year, and like he was supposed to be fighting Shane Mullen. Jamie McAlee stepped in on, I think, a week's notice here to save the fight. But Brady just looked phenomenal. Like they were kind of playing on the feet for a very brief exchange, and Brady just very tactically kind of level changed. His entry was beautiful into the takedown, got the takedown, and from there he just kind of went through McAleese like a hot knife through butter. Got some ground and pound, got the finish very quickly. First round submission, rear naked choke. Seems, comes across as just a really genuinely nice guy, family man. He was, this is his thing now. I guess the lads in commentary were saying about like doing the bad dad dancing in the cage. And, but it was nice, it was really nice. What I thought was really nice was a lot of fighters, their whole identity is fighting. But he was kind of saying to Paul Brown, he was like, look, more than anything, whether I win or lose, I'm so happy in life right now. And I get to wake up with this beautiful family, and I have a smile on my face every time I go to train and everything. And that makes it so much easier. So like, it's just kind of nice to hear on a human level.
They say a happy fighter is a dangerous fighter. You know what I mean?
Well, it's in this case, it's definitely true. So, sure. He advances, I think, to 2-0 now and 2 finishes in the year. So a great year for him. The amateur super lightweight title was before that, which was Jordan Scully and Dominic Rhodes. And I think I've written on my notes here for this card 3 or 4 or 5 times, like a hot knife through butter. Jordan Scully just shot for double leg immediately.
I think you need to just copy and paste that whenever Jordan Scully is fighting. Honest, that's most of his takedowns are kind of like that, aren't they?
He's got vicious grappling, I would say. Like, he's got very aggressive, violent grappling. If that makes sense, where like there wasn't strike, I don't know if there's any strikes thrown, maybe a few on the ground here, but shot for double leg. Rose defended well. He transitioned up the legs to the single leg, and then to the body that Peter Queally was screaming at him for the body lock that he wasn't defending it. Got it immediately. McGann pointed out on comms the pass into half guard where he kind of stepped over and was saying, like, that's where that you see a lot of fighters that will kind of stay in the full guard and they won't progress, and like, in MMA the half guard is like the king at the moment as far as like getting your shots off, getting your damage off. And Scully,
especially you're someone like Jordan Scully who likes to take the fight down and obviously using that to land damage as well. And he spoke with us, Andy, about that when we had him on, is that that kind of Habib grappling style where it's just not just progression, but it's progression and damage, and you need to have that style in professional mixed martial arts as well. So it's good to see him progressing like that.
Yeah, 100%. And look, he finished the fight. He flattened him out, got the choke shortly after that. And yeah, like, he was as boisterous as ever after the fact. I think he's that was his second title, his second weight class in Iúr as an amateur, becoming a champion. I think he was chatting to Conor. I assume he was talking to Conor McCarthy. Because I can't remember. Did Conor win a 2-weight class there? He must not have. I know Conor won a load of titles at amateur, but I can't remember if he won a 2-weight. Maybe he did. But he was obviously kind of yelling out to Conor, how does that look with the 2 belts on his shoulders? And they were talking, will he go pro next year? It'll be interesting to see. But like, he's had a brilliant year as an amateur. Since moving to SBG Nice, like, he's gone from strength to strength, and I think he's finished the year. So he had I'm gonna have to do my maths here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5-1 on the year. And I was gonna say all finishes. He hasn't got all finishes, but he's got a lot of finishes in that stretch as well. So fair play to Jordan Scully. Before that, where are we now? Matthew O'Rourke versus Ben Johnson. If anyone hasn't seen this fight, go and watch it. It was 2 big boys, middleweights, and they were swanging and banging. And I tell you what, like, Ben Johnson, like, O'Rourke looked very solid early. He was landing some nice, well-placed shots. But Ben Johnson had a lot of success early in this fight, and it was his volume. He was swarming O'Rourke. The commentary team were kind of making the observation that he had landed kind of a flurry of shots that seemed to be putting damage on O'Rourke, and then he finished up with a high kick that kind of looked to have hurt him a bit, but then he shot for the takedown against the cage, a bit of a Brendan Loughnane, I guess you could say, back in the Contender Series. The commentary team didn't like that, or were pointing out that maybe that might have been the best decision making, but yeah, that was the fight kind of just continued on this way it was back and forth, both lads hurting each other. Like O'Rourke had his success, Johnson had his success, but then O'Rourke just turned the tide. He landed a beautiful left hook, followed by another few shots, and then backed him up against the cage. Johnson looked really hurt, and then O'Rourke landed a flush right hand that sent him down. It was wasn't quite a full, well, it was a face plant KO, but obviously he wasn't. I don't think he was unconscious, but that's a good thing, I would say. But yeah, an emphatic KO, incredible stuff from Matthew O'Rourke, who's had a great few.
The middleweight division, I think, I think Matt, he's been up at 205 that light heavyweight as well. But I think that he looked a good fighter, looked a solid fighter at middleweight. Andy, would you agree?
Yeah, definitely. And he didn't look like he was. I don't know what his weight cut like or anything like that, but he didn't look out of place at middleweight at all. Sure. I would be surprised if I'd be surprised if he was going back up to light heavyweight, but maybe I'm wrong on that. But yeah, brilliant for him. And then we had the last one we'll go through today is Aidan O'Boyle defeating Rory Lavery. Lavery looked really good here early doors. He looked to be winning the first round, and then Aidan O'Boyle got the fight to the mat, and he had a submission attempt that looked quite close. So like the first round was very, very close. Lavery had some great success on the feet. He was looking quick, straight shots, looking really, really good. We've seen him. It feels like maybe 1 or 2 years ago now. He was on a really great tear early on in his amateur career. But O'Boyle, I tell you what, once he got the fight to the ground in that first round, he was looking really good, and then that was his game plan. Then going into the second was immediately took the fight to the ground, and landed some heavy ground and pound, and got the back and scored the choke for a second round submission. So a great win for him. I think the only other fight in the main card then was actually a K1 or a kickboxing fight. To be honest, I was watching this after the fact and I didn't watch it, so apologies to the Iúr team there. But a great night of fights. Really solid here. Very, very exciting, and a heap of finishes.
Fair play. Caoilte, I'm going to go over to you for EFC. We'll keep on the domestic scene before we talk about a couple of professional fights that have been announced for the start of 2025. Saturday the 21st of December, the Christmas Cracker, Elite FC down in Cork. Brian Manning tops the bill again. Take us through some of the fights that you're looking forward to on that card.
Yeah, great card. It was actually pushed out a week. It was originally supposed to be on the weekend just gone, the 14th, but was pushed out to the 21st December, I think. And there's been a few changes since, but lads, it's a very, very good card to finish the year. Elite FC have had a very strong year overall, and credit where due for the cards they've put on. So Brian Manning tops the bill. It's a catchweight this time, 88 kg against Vanderlei Moretta Jr. I think he's 2-5, 3-5 or something. He's coming in on short notice after Brian's original opponent had to pull out. So good to see Brian keeping active. Don't know much about Moretta Jr. to be very honest, but we'll see come next weekend what type of test he offers. Jordan Bradshaw is actually, I think he's
had a fairly quiet 2024. Probably not to. I mean, I was chatting to him as a Cage Legacy 2023 as well, and he was egging at that stage to get out. So it's nice for him to get an old spin out there before the end of the year.
I think he's had two pro fights or two pro debut chances kind of fall through now. Yeah. So yeah, he finally gets to make the walk. He's taking on Ashley Williams. I think he's a Welsh fighter. I think he's 0-6 or something. And so they're flying him in, and he's taking on Jordan. That's going to be a featherweight fight for Jordan's pro debut. And we're going to actually have another pro debut. Someone we haven't seen in a while, but Lee McGill. I hope I'm saying that correctly. He's a MMA Cork. He's taking on a guy, Sammy I'm going to butcher this. Sammy El-Hichu or Hishu. No idea.
Don't worry, we get names wrong on this podcast all the time. Yeah. I'm the chief getting the person's name wrong here. So
look, welterweight fight. He's making his pro debut. I think he'd all finishes as an amateur. He hasn't fought in quite a bit of time now, but looks like a solid little prospect. Going pro a little bit earlier than probably most would have guessed. But it'd be interesting to see how he gets on now. So that's another.
You're probably going to see a lot of people going pro a little bit earlier than expect, because we're not seeing that massive amount of fights being put on in Ireland at the minute, unfortunately. Isn't it? It's kind of forcing the people to make that move, isn't it?
It is. I think it. opens up a wider discussion for another day, where there's only a
Yeah.
certain amount of opportunities in these bigger promotions, and they're going to have to fight each other eventually or find opportunities as a way fighter somewhere. But that's a conversation for another day. So yeah, look, another prospect entering the pro scene in Ireland. And yeah, outside that, right through the few title fights, super lightweight title, Yuchef Ukachin versus Evan Horgan. That fight was made at last Elite FC, should be a cracker. Featherweight title, Jake Nye, he's gone from, he was meant to fight flyweight at one time, bantamweight, he's going third division now for him. Featherweight title against Jared Ryan, I believe Jake stepped in on short notice. Light heavyweight title fight between Caleb Leach and Cork's own Sam Driver. So another title fight there. And bantamweight title, Johnny Duggan versus Tommy Skaugrim. No idea about this guy whatsoever, to be honest, but he's being flown in. I think he's another replacement fight. But that's
that Ryan fight is a cracker, isn't it?
Class, yeah. It's a good card. Like, it's a good, well-matched card. Like, to whet the appetite, I guess, in for the Christmas break. And they put on a good card the last time too, so it's fair play to them. I'll always give credit to any promotion who's going to be putting on fights, because we know, and we've been saying throughout this year, it's not easy to do that anymore in Ireland, and we need it badly. We need it badly down the south, and obviously it's a hotbed of MMA action up in the north of Ireland. But yeah, I mean, hopefully we can get more action in 2025 down in the southern counties. Moving on.
Just before we move on, was there a few cancelled fights in this one, Caoilte, as well?
There's a few. I think there's a few fallout fights.
I remember seeing Amy Scully and they weren't fighting each other. There weren't Jodie McCarthy. Remember that the Muay Thai kid? You're
still on it. Yeah. Jodie's on it. Yeah. Amy's fighting Emily Badmaev. Sorry, I went through the title fights and the pro fights. Yeah, Emily Badmaev versus Amy Scully in a strawweight fight after Amy won the IMAF Worlds at atom weight. Jodie McCarthy, I think she's fighting a girl who's flying in from France. And just one that I think this is a sneaky contender that for fight of the night. They're very early on in their amateur career, but they're both entertaining lads. Taylor Heffernan and Ty O'Connor. It's on the prelims. Really, really good amateur fight that I'm looking forward to. I think is worth watching as well. But yeah, it's a stacked card, lads. Credit where it's due. Like they know how to put on a show.
100%. Yeah, great to see. Couple of fight announcements, lads, that we'll rattle through. I'll rattle through all of them first, and then we'll talk about them after. The Cage Warriors Dublin card is starting to take shape, and my goodness, what a main event that's been announced for that card. James Sheehan, Jimbo Slice is back against Justin Burlinson. There will be blood. That's all I'll say about that. There will be blood in that one. Emer Darcy versus Daniela Sanchez, also announced for that card, and we can expect a metric ton of other Irish fighters to be announced for that card as well. I would expect Conor McCarthy, Max Lally, and a couple of others, Ger Harris, and a few others I would imagine would be on that card too. We have Nathan Kelly versus Hassan Magomed Sharapov. Oh, sweet baby Jesus, that is some fight. Like, I mean, just saying it out loud, I've seen it on the screen. I've said it out loud for the first time now, and that's a cracker of a fight. We'll talk about it in a minute. Kenny Mokahana is back against Ibrahimov, a very good fighter from the UK scene that's fought in the PFL a couple of times. And Mama B back in action in March in the London card on the 22nd of March as well against Pooja Tomer. That was the first Indian fighter. I believe she was the first Indian woman to win a UFC fight as well. So, I mean, it's great to see Mama B back in action as well. And look at all those fights, lads. Andy, I'll go to you first, I guess. All those fights, we're picking up where we left off with Irish MMA in 2025. A busy start to the year for us. I'll just give the floor. Talk us through the fights. What are you looking forward to? Like, I mean, I hate picking, but I just keep looking back at this Nathan Kelly versus Kazim Magomed Sharapov fight. Like, my goodness, what a fight that is.
It's an absolute banger. I mean, like for many reasons. Like, one, obviously, you have the profile of Zabit's brother, and you kind of almost forget about Hassan and just start thinking about Zabit's the one that got away from the UFC or whatever. That's what the narrative is, and that's where the spotlight came on Hassan originally. But we've seen this guy fight in Dublin many times. Like, he's shared a card actually with Nathan Kelly, obviously, not fighting each other, on one of the Bellator shows, I think it was a couple of years ago. The guy is just so good. I think he's 10-0 now. Looks absolutely phenomenal. and looks very well rounded as well. But Nathan Kelly, like this is a fight we've been calling for. You know, we've been kind of hypothesizing around, could maybe Kieran Clark or something go in against Hassan Magomedsharipov, and now we've got Nathan Kelly, and Kelly's on an 11 fight win streak. He's finishing lads to beat the band, and now he gets this opportunity on a card, the Paul Hughes versus Usman Nurmagomedov card in Dubai. A big spot for him, and it's a fight that he deserves. You know, this is if you win against a guy like Hassan Magomedsharipov, I think you're looking at, this is in January, there's a good chance you might get thrown into that $1 million tournament, I would say, with a win here. Or, you know, I mean, we don't know. PFL's a minefield right now as to what the hell's going on there, but there's a lot of options. Like that's your freaking performance.
Yeah, I'd say it's safe to say that the tournament will be taking place next year. I know obviously there's a slew of other cancelled shows and everything like that. And, you know, one person, Caoilte, that has been affected by, you know, a lot of cancellations and lack of action is Kenny Mukhana, who's back in action again against Ibrahimov. And it's great to see Kenny back in action, to be honest. A fantastic talent. And he's coming in here against a tough guy too. You know, both Nathan Kelly and Kassan fights and this fight between Kenny and Ibrahim, you're talking about two top prospects going head to head with each other to see who's going to get the next kind of jump up the division.
Yeah, they're really going for this Ireland versus Dagestan on the card. I know Ibrahim.
It makes a hell of a lot more sense now, doesn't it? With Hughes and with Nurmagomedov, and then you have a couple of more Irish versus Russian guys. And
I like it. I think it feels a bit more story behind it.
If you're going to go with the gimmick, you have to feed into the gimmick. So fair play to them. That's what I say.
Yeah. You know what? The fact that Kenny, you know, it's a massive opportunity for Kenny to, you know, on a big card. Delighted to see him get it. It's been so long since we've seen him in there. I can't even recall the last time he fought, to be honest. Yeah, I know it's probably not as far back as you think, but so, you know, Irish MMA, time flies. Brilliant to see him in there. Very tough fight against Ibrahimov, but I think it's a very good fight for him, very winnable fight for him as well. Ibrahimov's top prospect in the UK, comes from a very rich kind of sporting family with his two brothers playing for Manchester United, for any Manchester United fans out there. But yeah, you know, very solid wrestler, very good. But I do feel like this could be an absolute cracker considering what we've seen from Kenny in his career so far and what Ibrahimov has to offer. So brilliant fight. And you know what? Just to maybe move on from this fight a little bit as well, why can't we add another Ireland versus Dagestan fight, to be honest, Jer? Because I think I'd love to see Kieran Clark added to this card, to be very honest, Jer. See announced. There's surely some undefeated Dagestani out there to add him to it as well and go all out.
I don't know if I would. Who is the name escapes me right now? The fella that he beat Brian Moore in Russia. What's his name? Nikita.
He's Ukrainian. Nikita Krylov. Nikita.
No, so I was going to say Nikita Krylov as well. I'm just going to we'll get that in a minute. But I want to echo that sentiment as well. I feel
Nikita Rysenko, is it, or something? Or
I'll get it in a second. Nikita Mikhailov. That's
it's great to see Kenny back though.
Yeah, it is.
Like because he signed with Aries, member, and then I remember checking in with him a good few times, and he kept on like not wanting to say. He's like, I have a fight coming up, and then it would fall through, and it seemed to be rinse and repeat. And the last fight you were talking about, you know, when's the last time we seen him? It was that Josh O'Connor loss in Dublin where, you know, Kenny was after finishing lads left, right, and centre, and then he takes his first loss as a pro, and he's had to kind of sit on that now for the last year and a half. And then on top of that, you've got all the issues of, you know, not being able to get fights, and I'd love to have him on to figure out what the hell's been going on. Like,
no, I definitely think we'll have a chat with him for sure. Like, he came out very outspoken, wanted to be released, was happy to be released from his Bellator contract, flirted with the chance maybe to go to Aries, and look at it. I agree. I think it's great to see him back, and it's an overall shame. I kind of want to go back to what Caoilte was saying as well. Like, I think Kieran Clark should be on that card as well. I'd love to see it against that Mikhailov, who's not Ukrainian, is Russian, in fact. 10-4 against Kieran Clark, who's still undefeated. I think it's a good a good matchup for him. But it'll be interesting to see. Like, I mean, the main bulk of that kind of fight card has been kind of announced already. I'm not sure what they're planning for prelims, or if Kieran has been reached out to or anything like that. But if they're going to kind of feed into the gimmick, as I said, you'd expect Caoilte a couple of more Irish to be added to the card, wouldn't you?
Yeah, and like, you know, if you pick out the ones that it looks like they've been getting behind, Kieran Clark kind of fits the bill. You know, undefeated, really has built himself in the Bellator rankings, and obviously with the merger and everything I think he'd be perfect. You know, could throw Dara Kelly in there as well, and could go all out. I think, look, I love a gimmick at times when it comes to promotional stuff, build storylines, all this type of stuff, and I love seeing guys get big opportunities on big cards. So I think no better opportunity than a world title fight between Paul Hughes, a card with Paul Hughes and Usman Nurmagomedov fighting for a title on it.
100%, yeah. Couldn't agree more. Really, really looking forward to that card as a whole. I'm looking forward to seeing Mama B back in action as well. Andy coming in here on the London card again. Another winnable fight here. I think, you know, if she comes in at 100%, I think she could go and get the win and get a finish here in this fight.
Yeah, like this is a great opportunity. Look, this is Shauna's opportunity now to kick on. Obviously, she had the debut last year. She's been fighting in England. It's her third time on the bounce now. What was it? London, Manchester, and now London again. So look, yeah, she's got a solid opportunity here, and I'm sure she'll be itching to get back in there. You know, it's, you know, we don't know exactly, but like she was saying after her win, you know, when she got the UFC win, that it had been a really, really tough year. So hopefully it's, you know, kind of more smoother sailing for Shauna, training and everything else, and that she can kick on here for now and get a win in London and progress on. Because yeah, you know, we need more Irish wins now in the UFC. It was an up and down year. Obviously, Ian flying high. But although he did finish on a loss, it was a very mixed bag for the Irish in the UFC in 2024. So here's hoping, you know, as unbiased as we can, here's hoping for a better year in 2025 for the Irish.
Indeed. Well said. And I guess, yeah, we'll finish off real quick. Cage Warriors Dublin. This James Sheehan versus Justin Burnhamson fight. Cracker. Absolute cracker, boys. What do we think?
Unbelievable. Yeah, Ian Dean's pulled it out the bag once again. Great headliner, and I expect violence for 5 rounds, maybe if it even gets that far. But yeah, brilliant matchmaking, unbelievable fight. 2 top prospects. I think the winner goes to the UFC.
I was going to say that. You read my mind. I was going to bring it to Andy. Is like, I mean, the timing of this fight, Andy, really does align with, you know, if, you know, whoever wins this Contender Series coming back around, everything like that. I mean, yeah, timing is essential in mixed martial arts, and I think this one is, you know, obviously James would have been bitterly disappointed not to be able to defend his title late last year, obviously with the injury and stuff. He has a chance to come back here against a good opponent, against a guy who's going to go out and, you know, he's going to put it to him, and no better man to be able to take it and give it back is James Sheehan, and we saw that in his last fight, and I expect this one to be the same. We saw Burlinson obviously going in there against Rhys McKee when Rhys beat him for the title the last time. He has another chance to come back in. He'll be hungry. You know, it's just a cracking fight, isn't it?
It's a great fight, like, and like, brilliant to see James getting another main event slot in front of a hometown crowd. Like the last one in the RDS was a phenomenal night. I'm sure this one will be the same, no doubt. But yeah, like, it's I almost like don't like joking about this because like it's real world ramification and consequences, but like it is, like you mentioned earlier on, you know, there will be blood or whatever it was, but like it is the type of fight that you see on paper and you're like, I can literally picture, you know, the post fight photo of like both lads, you know, the ones where they're sitting in an ambulance together, like and like where they're sharing a smile after going to, like, that's the type of fight this is. And Burlinson, you know, he's had his setbacks, and I think, you know, he's coming back from cancer, I believe he just revealed.
He won his last fight too, like that was after coming back as well, and looked pretty good there too. So like, I mean, he's been through the depths of the doldrums himself, and he's fought his way back into this position. It's been a fantastic story for him as well.
Yeah, but it's a banger, and it's two lads that are at the top of Cage Warriors. It's a very, very well matched fight, and I'd have I think again, like, the only reason I don't say like James to the UFC immediately is nothing to do with James and more to do with I just think it's the UFC just don't see it seems to be a lot more difficult. So like, hopefully James, if he can get a win here, then it is onto maybe Contender Series, or you may even have to defend it once more. But like, it's the path to the UFC. I mean, the guy has put in a lot of work here. He's come through his trials and tribulations inside the cage. He's taken his licks and he's come back stronger. Obviously, the losses to Gary, to Owen Elliott. Now he's a champion. He had that amazing performance to win the belt. And if he can seal the deal here and put a stamp on, that this is his throne, his welterweight title, I'd love to. He's the type of guy you could get behind, as well, if you're an Irish MMA fan. So, like, yeah, big opportunity for James Sheen, and very well deserved here.
100%. Yeah, very well said. Really looking forward to that and seeing some more announcements coming, I would assume, towards the start of 2025 for that card in the RDS on April 26th. Last but not least, Pedro Carvalho has announced he's signed for the GFL. Any thoughts on that, Caoilte?
The Gaelic Football League, is it?
Gaelic Football League, yeah.
Can't wait to see him. Crow Park, Dublin. But I'll be honest.
He's signed up. I mean, based off what Will was telling us in the interview, it's like a draft, and they're signing 400 fighters. They are, it's,
yeah, your man. Your man. And is it Andy something? Great name.
It's always Andy.
Oh, you never trust an Andy now.
Dodgy individual, I would assume. Then, yeah.
But he said the same to when he was on with Hawani. There was like, it's not. They've signed I can't remember however many it was, but they're not giving them all a fight. Like, they're not.
No, it's a draft.
It's very, very.
Yeah. Look at.
I'll believe this when I see it.
Yeah, I look at. When I think of the GFL, and I hear about this lad talking to Ariel Hawani, do you know what it kind of reminds me of? It reminds me of the episode of The Simpsons where your man built the monorail. You know what I mean? And the monorail, it was just great, beautiful thing, and it looked like it worked, and it looked like it was going to work. But then when he actually turned it on, he actually hadn't thought it through, and the guts started falling out of the train, and they weren't able to stop it, and eventually it crashed and broke down. I think this,
Monorail.
Yeah, this is kind of what I see with that promotion. They've signed on lots of old fighters. I just don't think it's going to work. And I no disrespect to anyone who's running it or anyone who's signed, but it seems all too good to be true. They're throwing money at it to beat the band. It's a format that has been tried, true, and tested in mixed martial arts before. This kind of team draft kind of style kind of reminds me of the IFL. You remember the IFL, the International Fight League, boys?
Used to be on the Undisputed game.
That's right, yeah. So, I don't know. Fair play to Pedro. Obviously, look at the tough run of it in 2024 for Pedro. I hope he gets signed. I hope he's getting paid well, and I hope he makes the draft.
I think the most interesting thing from Pedro's perspective, I think he mentioned he's going to lightweight. So, like, I think that's a good move for him, to be honest with you. Like, he's taken a lot of damage in his last number of fights, and I think that he looks. I've seen photos of him. He looks like he absolutely kills himself to make that 145 mark. So I think that's a very smart move for him at this juncture in his career. Let's see what happens with this GFL. I'm quite skeptical of it, the same way you are, Ian. And yeah, maybe it'll be great. Let's see it. I mean, the things that they're saying are great about fighter pay and all that stuff, but let's just see it come to fruition before, singing it.
Before we get too excited about it. Yeah. MMA can be a cruel mistress sometimes. Get your hopes up and tatters them.
Pedro Carvalho versus Greg Hardy, is it?
yeah, indeed. It's Royce Gracie or something like that. That's what we want to see him against.
Jeremy Stevens, actually.
Yeah, not too bad, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. And I guess that wraps us up for episode 73 of the Auld Triangle. That wraps us up for 2024 too. I don't think we will do another one in the year of 2024. We'll see you early 2025 for maybe a little bit of a special episode of the Auld Triangle to kick us off for a new year. And the only thing for us to do is for Caoilte to see us out.
Yeah, sure. Look, good to see. Do you know what, lads?
Shout out PG Carter for.
Oh, yeah.
We have to say it. Thanks for stealing our idea number one. I came in there like Andy Stevenson at the end of the podcast there, just before Caoilte wrapped it up. But yeah, it's great to see a bit of MMA coverage on TG Carter, wasn't it?
It is, yeah. I think they're expected to be at Cage Warriors too. I've not got a phone call, to be honest with you, but I don't know.
Hey, yeah. Anybody?
Oh, wait. Forget about Caoilte for a second, though. Like and subscribe to the video. Leave a comment, and then we'll get to Caoilte. Sorry, and then petition for Caoilte.
If we get 10 likes on this podcast, that means Caoilte's getting the opportunity with TG Carter for commentary duties on Cage Warriors Dublin. You heard it here.
On a serious note, though, who would even?
There's a few. There's ring me before.
You and Richard Caoilte could do it.
Oh yeah, but I think
if they're doing MMA on TG Carter and you don't get a call,
I don't think they'll have like a show on. I think they'll just turn up for like post-fight interviews or something, or maybe follow Max around because they know he's got Irish. Maybe
you should be getting a few bob and fucking come on out.
I used to get it for the radio, Andy. Unreal, great crack. Back in my college days. That's a story for another day.
Look, saying nothing to the revenue.
I never received any money from TG Carter.
Quick, see us out there quick before they come out.
This show is an entertainment show. Please don't take anything serious.
Yeah, we make no money off this show ever at all.
This is all fun and games. But yeah, look, good to see them doing it. Great to see Max getting a lot of coverage and being on the news. Ask away, I guess. So yeah, look, been a great year. Everyone, Nolik Hunna Díobh Galéir, Avelin Vivasha, Xmaris Ganá, Slán go fóill.